Hey everyone, this is Eleanor with Eleanor's Elite Radio. Good afternoon. It is February 4th, about 1:19 in the afternoon. We have a beautiful day, very cool out. I have the pleasure today to speak with CEO, Mr. Philip Scarpelli of Brevard Family Partnerships. Hi Phil, how are you?
Hey, good afternoon, Eleanor. Great to be joining you this afternoon.
Beautiful day out. Isn't it nice and cool out?
Oh, the whole world wants to be in Florida today, that's for sure.
You better believe it. So how are you? Can you tell us what is Brevard Family Partnerships? Tell us that first.
Oh, I'm happy to do so. I'm so proud. I am the CEO of Brevard Family Partnership. I just rounded my first anniversary in this blessed position, and leading the helm of 200 wonderful social work folks who are here to help all of the at-risk children and families here in Brevard County. So our organization is about 17 years old, and it's contracted with the state of Florida to work with children who allegedly are victims of abuse, neglect, or abandonment. And the department who runs the front end of the child well system basically sends out private investigators, protective investigators, that are deployed to these families' homes after a call to the hotline has been made where there is suspicion of neglect or abuse of children. And when they do that, they go out and they interview everyone, the child, the family, the neighbor, whomever, and maybe even get involved with school personnel and anyone related or associated with that child and family to get a better sense of the circumstance that led to a call. The calls are, quite frankly, anonymous, and they're sent to the hotline, and one does not need to reveal themselves unless you are a designated child welfare worker or someone in my position. We'd have to identify ourselves. But so our organization is responsible post-investigation to make sure that these children, first and foremost, are placed in a safe environment. And it could be in the home if the mitigating circumstances can be addressed. If not, the child may, in fact, go into foster care. And at that point, we take on all of the case management programs and services.
I want to ask a question. A lot of people seem to feel that there are certain companies, certain subsidiaries under Brevard Family Partnerships that seem to drop the ball when it comes to caring for children, or protecting them, I should say. So do you blame any one person? I mean, let's face it, our system is overloaded with children that are being abandoned, neglected, abused due to domestic violence, drugs, whatever. And do you feel that at some point, where do you think the ball gets dropped? Is it because of there's too many children, not enough workers, not enough pay for our people, or case management where, everybody's so overloaded with casework? And that's my question to you. I want to know, where do you think the ball gets dropped? Is it just something that happens?
Well, that's a very good question. It's a very big question. It's a question that many in and out of the system probably have contemplated for years. But first and foremost, I must say, given my history and background working 30 years in this child welfare industry, let's be real. You cannot predict human behavior. So whether a child is harmed before coming into the system or happening it to them after they come to the system, it is not an infallible system. Number one. Number two, we do all that we can to ensure child safety, whether the child remains in the home under protective in-home supervision or whether they're removed and placed with family, kin, or foster parents for that matter. But yeah, the system is quite overwhelmed by the numbers. Ideally, whether it's in a hospital or a school or in a child welfare system, if the ratios of professional to children and professionals to family were less than they are today, the acuity by which we look after these children, their well-being needs and their safety would be far better. We just got back, my team and I just got back from Tallahassee to work with legislators about the adequacy of funding in child welfare, and we will continue to advocate. Money is not the answer to most social welfare issues, but it is part of the solution. The answer really is about community engagement. Work, first of all, awareness. Eleanor, you bringing this opportunity to light for Brevard Family Partnership to talk about the child welfare system is really the first step. So I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Second to that, I think that we need to continue to create a very strong message out there that there are children at risk. And there are families that are at risk, that have harmed children. And quite frankly, I say this oftentimes, parents don't wake up in the morning and planning their day to harm a child. It happens because they too are a victim of circumstance. Many of the families that we ultimately do removals from are families that struggle, as you well said a minute ago, with mental health issues, substance abuse issues, and subsequently things like domestic violence.
Right.
Quite frankly, poverty is among many of the attributes of some of the families that we work with, but it's not a cause for removal.
Right.
Right. We don't impose quality of life issues on these children or families, but we do stand by the law that they can be and should be held safe and and out of harm's way when cared for by adults. So, yeah.
Yeah, it does. It happens, and I know that everybody does their part, and it's hard, I guess, to keep track of it. And because I'm just learning all this new. I'm very new to child welfare, and I just have so many, questions as a newbie, I guess. Anyway, you tell me, what does Brevard Family Partnership staff do here for our children and families? What does the staff actually do?
So, because we're state funded, we are highly regulated. So everything and anything we do with children and families has performance expectations set forth by the state. So here, where I stand, is an administrative site that oversees everything that we do through contracts. The subsidiaries who hold these contracts with us get funding, guidance, and support, and performance expectations that roll down through Brevard Family Partnership to these provider agencies. One of these provider agencies is called Family Allies. They do the lion's share of all the case management work for these children and families, and those are where the frontline, boots-on-the-ground staff are working with kids, making sure that they're in safe placements, working with moms and dads that are getting services and treatment to mitigate and remediate their situations, and subsequently to work with reuniting child with parents when appropriate.
I'm glad you brought up Tallahassee. What was the outcome? Were you able to meet with anyone? What was the outcome of your Tallahassee visit?
Well, it was a wonderful visit. We spent a couple of days up there.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were meetings with like agencies, and a lot of meetings were with government officials. But the most important message was delivered by our entourage, which consisted of youth who are aged out of foster care system, foster parents, adoptive parents, and some of the team that I respectfully call my co-leaders of this organization. We go up there and we engage the legislators. We met in the few days we were up there one-on-one with a couple of senators and several representatives.
Wonderful.
And our message was really delivered by the families that were served and the families that served with us. And that was wonderful. The youth, usually between the ages of about 16 to about 19, 20 years of age, come with us and they talk about who they are, where they've been, where they're headed. And I really want legislators to think mostly about what are the opportunities organizations provide to these youth about a better tomorrow. And we've got kids that are already enrolled in college, kids are holding down jobs, kids who are living independently, and these are the kids that have grown out of the system.
Right.
And if you think about the potential that we work with them on, that's hope for tomorrow for everyone.
Is there a program for children that have aged out?
Yes, we do work with kids who are aging out. And matter of fact, there's a newly birthed organization here, a nonprofit called Ready for Life, that Brevard Family Partnership and the community have come together, and you'll have to check out their website as well, readyforlife.com, and they are specifically targeting kids who are aging out and who have aged out to ensure that those individuals have life expectations that are set forth and guided by adults who care. And so we hook them up with mentors. We have
that's what I was going to say, yeah.
The mentors are wonderful. And one of the things I'd love to put a plug in on this discussion is that one might think, what can I do to participate in this arena? I care about kids. I want to help agencies like this. I mean, everything from volunteering with Brevard Family Partnership and its family of agencies to hooking up with a young person, and it could be a young adolescent, it could be an older one that's ready to move on to a road to independence, building a healthy relationship. What I've always studied, and I used to teach this in classes with families, is that, it really just takes one adult to connect with one child, to let them know that they are valued, they're respected,
exactly,
and that they have every privilege and right to grow up independently and live, their dream, if you will. Exactly. And so mentors help that. It doesn't even have to be a blood-related person or a parent by definition. It just has to be
someone who cares.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are some of the growing challenges that you see for children and families at risk?
Well, as much of an impact as we are making here in Brevard County, what we are statistically seeing is a rise of opioid use.
Yes.
It's sad because drugs are a power in and amongst itself. And when these families who are struggling get involved in that, the recovery statistically is very poor. People relapse and relapse and relapse. And when kids are in foster care, that just extends the time that their life is being disrupted. We need more providers of services to children and families that are dealing with these issues of mental health and substance abuse. So the population in this state continues to grow.
Yes, it does.
Exponentially. And you know what? More and more grandparents are raising grandkids. You better
believe it.
Right? At a stage in their life where they should be caring for themselves, right?
Absolutely.
And you see that, you're saying?
Yes, I do. I see it all the time now because of being a guardian. It's all is caring for the children are the grandparents, either mother or the father's side. It is. It's very, very difficult. I wish we could I know this isn't a BFP topic because it has to do with BFP, but how do we go about helping the opiate issue? How do we give me some solutions as far as how we can do this? Is it more funding? Is it stricter regulations on the doctors that are prescribing these drugs over and over and over? I mean, I'm not, I remember, and I'm being very truthful, I took care of both of my parents till their last passing breath. And my father was a veteran who was injured, disabled veteran, and he would get every month about 90 OxyContin pills every single month. I used to take them and lock them up in a box, but that's just me. So how do we regulate the veteran doctors or the doctors that have these little doc shops all over Brevard County? How do we get them to stop writing these prescriptions? There has to be something more we can do as a community.
Wow, that's a real loaded question that you and I can do a 3-hour podcast on. And I would love to do it with you sometime. Right. But let me tell you something. You're absolutely right. First and foremost, it's about awareness, right? People need to know the toxic and the psychologically addictive and physiologically addictive nature of even prescription drugs.
Yes.
And what happens is people who revert to that, and our federal government for the last decade has been crunching down on pain medicine facilities, and that's probably a good thing to better regulate and let people be aware that drugs are addicting and that one can go down a real bad path. But the fact of the matter is, when they started restricting on the pain medication dispensing, then people who were not effectively dealing with the addiction were now reverting to illegal substances.
Right.
So that's one avenue by which, addiction becomes more magnified as a social issue. But the other thing is mental illness.
Right.
So mental illness and instability, poor judgment, poor coping skills, they're self-medicating.
You're not exactly
right.
self-medicating. That's it.
Right, and they do start out with lighter or lesser, how would you say, toxicity of drugs, and then elevate it because the fix isn't good enough.
Right.
right? And what further troubles me is that we need to get a hold of this now, because what is happening, more and more moms are giving birth to drug-dependent newborns. And what's sad